we attended at the Adelaide Central School of Art, as Helga has just told you about their award, and to view the students' current exhibition of works, Wefton Wall. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Davis, Councillor Piggott.
Yes, I'm part of a subcommittee of the East going forward, and I attended a meeting there on the 25th of May and the 8th of June, and I also attended the budget public meeting on the 23rd of May.
Thank you. Councillor Davey.
Thank you, Your Worship. I met with constituents on site at Leabrook, in Kensington Park, at Hazelwood Park and in Beulah Park during this 3-week time. I also attended the Volunteers Week 2018 awards ceremony at the Regal Theatre on the 23rd of May, the budget public meeting on the 23rd of May, the CEO Recruitment Performance Remuneration Review Committee meeting on the 28th of May, the Burnside Hospital Board meeting on the 30th of May, a Burnside Hospital Organisational Survey Partnership with Consumers session on the 5th of June, a board lunch meeting with Burnside Hospital Assessors, Accreditation Assessors on the 5th of June, and an update re the Constable Harbour Memorial Gardens project and progress with that on the 5th of June.
Thank you. Councillor Lord.
Nothing to report.
Councillor Cornish.
Thank you, Mayor Parkin, and I apologise for not sending this through earlier. I had the CEO committee on the 28th of May, an Eastern Health Authority special meeting on the 7th of June, and tonight's workshops.
Thank you. Councillor Ford.
Thank you. I attended the public workshop on the budget on 23rd of May, and tonight's workshop on the bylaws and the 2018-19 budget.
Thank you. We move on to item 8 on the agenda, deputations, and we have one tonight from the Glenside Lions Club, and I'm not sure who's doing it, but I ask which one of you is to come forward, please, and present on behalf of the club on the matter of the Conningham Street development. Thank you. I ask you to turn on your microphones when you speak. You have 5 minutes and you'll get a warning bell after 4. And please wait around because there is likely to be questions from my colleagues.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. My name's Rob Byrne. I'm supported here with Ian Digby and Alistair Burst. I'm a long-term member of the Glenside Lions Club, a resident of Burnside. Ian is a vice president, Alistair is a previous president. We're here to support the council's move on developing Conningham Street. We're a service club, we're not a charity, and we're rich in heritage and pride. We've been in the Burnside area for over 40 years as the Glenside Lions Club. It's an important project for us. We started this journey something like 4 years ago, and it was original a book mart site for us. We run the book mart on Tusmore Park, and it's a very successful fundraiser for us, and we donate as much as we can to the local community, and we do. And Ian will explain a little more on some of the dollars that we certainly pass on. Going back to the site at Conningham Street, it's a multi-purpose site. I think the plan is excellent. I'm a retired chartered engineer, now involved in our family wine and almond business, but that's a very different story. We, as a club, annual art show, which we do annually and supported very well by the council, thank you. We've committed $80,000 to the Conningham Street project, and we continue to support that financial commitment. We're there and wanting to move forward on that. We think it's a valued program. We were advised a week ago that it was going ahead. Ian and Alistair had meetings with the council. We thought it was all going ahead, and then we we got a call out of the blue saying it was going to get rescinded. So that's why we're here tonight, just to talk openly about how this has started and our motivation for adding value in the community. So, Ian, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Thanks, Rob. Good evening, everybody. As Rob said, I'm Vice President for Activities within the club. That's the unit within Glenside Lions or any Lions club that receives requests or seeks out where we might direct our funds. We've talked about the Book Mart, which is some 26 years of age, and moved to the Scout Hall in Tusmore Park in 2008. It gave us a new home. We are supported totally by the community, and we believe that we are totally in touch with the community. And we support a wide variety of activities. I think in our 40-year history, we've probably raised in excess of $1.6 million, and I would suggest that in excess of $1 million has gone back into the Burnside community, to such places as the Burnside Memorial Hospital, Eastwood Community Centre, recently the recipients of $10,000 from us to replace all of their casual furniture, tables and chairs, to something lighter and more modern, and easy on the volunteers to put those out every week. We've directed a lot of our energy to youth in this community in this last year through Little Athletics, both the Eastern Little Athletics with over 400 members and the McGill Little Athletics with over 200. We've contributed to the financial structure and requirements for two major scouting groups, one to accommodate paving for disability members into scouting, and the other to provide lockable storage to combat vandalism, which is hard to imagine in a scouting community, but they are affected. So we could go on with all the things that we do, but with our group of men and women in our club, with the support of the members of the community that donate hundreds, if not thousands of books to us every week, a band of community volunteers over and above our Lions membership who diligently work at there every Monday and Wednesday. And so out of that, as Rob said, we identified the men's shed in the Conningham Street development as one of essential need. The existing facility no longer meets the needs of the community. And I think when you look about needs of community and you think about the waiting list of people wanting to participate in men's shed, just think broadly about all of your own constituencies and think about men's health. It is a key facility for that purpose. So we would like to think that Council will continue to support its vote from last month and maintain the progress and not defer the men's shed for another 12 months. It's much needed. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any questions? Councillor Bilt.
Thanks for attending and presenting. I'm just wondering if you're actually a member of the Eastern Region Men's Shed.
Personally, no. I do live in Victoria Grove Village, and we have members there who are involved in the men's shed, and so I do hear direct feedback from those people who have been very, very excited and looking forward to a new home. And there are other men in our village that I know will aspire to go to the men's shed in the future once it's close to hand, and the opportunities and vacancies are there for them.
Any other questions? Councillor Lemon.
Thank you very much for coming in, and I'd like to personally thank you for being involved with Lions Club and the work that you do on behalf of Burnside and have done for all these years. Can you just give a bit of background about why it is that it's the men's shed in particular that inspired you?
So maybe I should just start, because this started 4 years ago when we were looking for substantial projects. You know, that's part of what, you know, we've got a book mart that is making substantial dollars, and we're trying to put it back into the Burnside community. And we were trying to find something we thought would make a difference. And it's, you know, I'm not a member of the men's shed, but I've certainly been there a couple of times. And, you know, the conditions they're in behind St Matthew's is not good. And we felt that we needed to try and do something, and we've been looking for a decent project for some years. And so this has been on the go for now nearly 4 years. And so it just, and because it was the old Bookmart home, you know, it was the old council depot, we felt this was a coming home type situation, and substantial dollars that we could make a statement in the community. It really got back to that sort of situation, and so that's sort of how we got involved with the council.
Any other questions? Councillor Rossiter.
Thank you, gentlemen, for coming in. Rob, I was particularly interested in your previous profession, that of an engineer. And you mentioned that you've looked at the plans and that you've been excited by those plans that you've seen. From a professional engineering perspective, is there anything at all in those plans that give you concern?
I've got to be careful here because I'm a mechanical engineer.
I think you're probably more educated than the people sitting around this table.
Look, I've sort of seen it evolve. Originally, I thought, I think the car parking has been well thought through. The access, I think having the community garden there, it all sort of fits with me. Good location. It's right in the heart of our, Glenside Lions Club area. There's another Lions Club, Burnside, which is our mother club. We work closely with them. From my point of view, I thought it was quite smart, well designed, well thought through, I thought. I've read the plans, and Barry has shown me the detail and the build-up. Good job.
Thank you. Helga?
Yes, I have another question. And it relates to you being a resident of Amber Woods. You were saying how keen some of the people were in the men's shed. Have you heard Victoria Grove, I beg your pardon. Have you heard about people being keen about the community garden at all in your immediate locale?
The community garden aspect hasn't come up for discussion in Burnside Village, in Victoria Grove as such. I suppose it's because predominantly the villas there all have their own established gardens, of which, if you want to get down to tic-tacs, your back garden and your side garden, you must be healthy enough to maintain yourself. Okay, but the front garden I will look after for you if need be. So I think that is probably broadly covered within our small community, but we're only a drop in the ocean.
No more questions, so thank you very much for your attending. And this matter should be being debated very shortly. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
We have no petitions. We have one question on notice, which has a number of parts from Councillor Lemon on the matter of the Planning, Development and Infrastructure Act 2016. The answers to those questions have been provided to you in writing. And we have one motion on notice, which is yours, Councillor Bills, on the matter of Conningham Street, and you have the floor on that matter. It's on page 13 of your agenda.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I'm not going to read the motion because it's there. I just ask that the one we did on the 22nd of May be rescinded. And speaking to that, I've only got one aim, and that's to slow the process to get the best result, not to stop it completely. The points I wish to make are the consultation that we based this on is a year out of date. We asked simple questions which should now be fleshed out. Every other major issue dealt with by this council has been subjected to more than once consultation, and I'll go into that later. I have no objection to anything there, just not a congested spot with 5 uses: men's shed, community garden, nursery, working depot and a 2-spot dog transfer station combined with car parking. We have time to get it right. The shed funding doesn't cease, as it seems now, until the 30th of June 2020. No consultation was done with the users of the nursery or the men's shed prior to this decision being made on the 22nd. It costs council $0 to run it. So using cost as a value is not a valued argument, and will continue for another 25 months. The church does not want the shed to move, and there has been no discontent shown or expressed by any member in the 12 years it's been operating. A move might save $12,000 a year in rent, but cost the community almost $2 million to build. A combination nursery and community garden at the current Laurel Avenue site would be highly valued and desired, with 80% of petitioners last year supporting retention being Burnside residents. That, people, is real community feel, expression and expectation, and complies with our expected desire. A working depot and a men's shed combination could then be a suitable and more appealing option, keeping their identity to create, socialise, ensure mental health and physical and emotional stimulation of elderly men through interaction without distractions. The men's shed booklet that was given to us kindly by Mr. Piggott some years ago has got some interesting articles in it by a lot of people who are very happy with the current location. Consultation was only done post-decision with the shed users, and considerable issues have been raised. This should have been done before. I thought that's what consultation was all about. The reason for my motion ensures nothing progresses until all participants are involved. The men's shed, the nursery, volunteers, petition signatories and local residents. Parking will be a problem, and parking is too far away for disabled people. I was at the men's shed today. There were 8 people there, sorry. 1 was in a wheelchair and 4 were on walking sticks. It's too far for them to walk. It is not particularly well designed. Council failed to act on a motion in 2010 which determined a community garden would be installed at the Laurel Avenue nursery along with an upgrade to the nursery, and it was budgeted for, but we didn't do anything about it. Now getting back to the consultation, Kensington Gardens had 3, Hazelwood Park had 2, the Hub had 3, the Dog Park had 2, Hyde Gardens had 2, and so far the village has had 5, but they're mainly business related. But Old Conningham Street, with serious implications for men's health, the shed and the nursery are given 1. I wonder why it's been short-circuited. Why not take a little bit more time just to get it right? The shed is funded till 2020 and the church is very happy with the current situation. Now and only now has council sent out to the shed users information upon which they make a decision. The shed is revered and poses no major issue. To the nursery, it's been there for 40 years and hasn't failed in any way to deliver what it was meant to when it was set up. The last petition, the last open day saw 343 signatories calling for it to remain. A petition was presented to council and was accepted on the 28th of August last year. It is acknowledged that the nursery needs attention, but our failure to consider it over the years is leading us to a site which is known to be contaminated. It will carry airborne detritus from road traffic, a petrol station, loader movements over wet and dry soil creating dust or mud, materials from concrete, bitumen, mulch, soil, rocks, logs, pavers, and the movements of vehicles attending to these through the action of depot and other staff necessitating equipment. It will have no ability to cope with unforeseen events or modification and severely limits its functionality. And the quote of $220,000 to remediate, I think, is based on a figure that's some years old, and it's a ballpark figure. Don't forget, you are right next door to a petrol station. Boy, talk about position, or location, depending on who you listen to and what real estate agent you go to. There are many more things. There are 3 other issues relative to us wanting to do things at the nursery back in 2010. None of them were progressed. The report was supposed to come to us in January 2011. I didn't see anything. In March 2011, another motion was put in, which just held off the nursery.
Your time has expired,
I'll get onto
Councillor
that when I
Wills.
sum up.
Thank you. I seek a seconder. Councillor Monto.
I'm happy to second that, and I want to make it quite clear, first of all, particularly to those present, I am not opposed to the development of Conningham Street. I, like Councillor Bills, believe that we should be doing this the best way possible. I am yes to the men's shed, absolutely, totally support the men's shed relocation there. At what point in time has to be according to the remediation of that site. That site is a contaminated site. We know it's contaminated, and I do not want to mess up those people's health without making sure that that site is remediated in a way that will not affect those people who are breathing the air and using that site, particularly for elderly. So yes to the men's shed, absolutely. No to the community garden, because I think 4 boxes of little plots are very small. And as you said, you've got one already across the road in Victoria Grove, so does Pineview. And there is also one at Eastwood Community Centre. So there are already some very good community gardens there. And that's not to say that there may not be demand for more, but perhaps that is not the right place, because as Councillor Bill said, 5 different uses for that one site is just too many. Also, I don't believe that we should be making a decision about this site without making a decision on the Laurel Avenue nursery site as well. That decision still hasn't been made. I believe, as Councillor Bills does, that is a better site for a nursery. It is a better site for a community garden, or an alternative site for yet another community garden. But that's another issue that we haven't debated yet and we haven't discussed. There is a real concern for me for lack of car parking, because I know, having had a disability recently myself, how important it is to be able to park where you can use, when you're on a walking frame or in a wheelchair, that you have access. And one disability car park for that site, with the increased demand of men's shed participants, potentially, particularly with the possibility of Unley coming in on that as well, is only going to increase the demand for disabled parking. Now, we may be within the rules, as was pointed out last week. I know lots of schools who operate like that within the rules, but that doesn't stop the queues, the toilets at recess and lunchtime, because they can't get in. My concern is there's not going to be enough people off-street car parking for the potential users of this site when the men's shed, when the men's shed is developed. Yes, it's going to get, I want to know what the actual costs are for remediating that site and how long it will take, because that is actually quite a long process, removing the contaminated soil, or piling it up and letting it aerate, or removing it completely and then trucking in completely new loads of soil to replace that which is contaminated. Overall, I'm concerned about the complete total development costs of that particular site at a time when we are struggling. I do believe, and I'm very grateful to everything that the Lions Club do and already have done. My father was a member of the Lions Club Burnside for many years, and I do appreciate all the work that you have done. I'm a regular user, purchaser and depositor of books at your bookshop. I do believe that, back in 2010 there were different options presented and different opinions provided. And 2018, 8 years is a long time, but as Councillor Bill said, there's only been one real investigation to find out what people actually want. So really, does it matter if we don't continue to do it straight away? I do believe that we have made a commitment to moving the men's shed. It's just a matter of making the right decision, but not making it a hurried decision without taking into account the future of what we're going to do with Laurel Avenue. I think the two things are important to be together.
Thank you. The motion's been moved and seconded. Councillor Osterstock.
I've just got a couple of questions. The consultation that was undertaken in respect to Conningham Street, did that comply with our consultation policy?
Through your worship, yes, it did.
And it was mentioned that Burnside is financially struggling. Can the administration comment on that statement, please?
That's a rhetorical question. We can move on from that. Councillor Davis.
We've heard a lot about contamination and people getting very, very sick from this site, and potentially people's health being in jeopardy from the soil that's there. Could the administration please provide a bit more background as to the level of contamination, what the cost of remediation would be, and the timeframes involved? Yeah, people should read them.
Through your worship, the information with respect to the contamination on the site has been provided to council on at least 2 or 3 occasions over the years. We have engaged AEC Consulting to do a number of investigations on the site, and over the years we've also been working with the EPA, so they're very aware of it. Without getting into the full details of the full contamination, there's low-level contamination on site with respect to soil and groundwater contamination. There's a number of wells on there that are monitored, and we keep it in mind there. With respect to the level or cost of contamination, that information has been provided and it's different levels. If council maintains status quo, there's not a need to remediate that site at all. So for its current use, there is no danger or issues with respect to that. All the way through to complete remediation, which would be complete soil removal and resolving all the other issues if council decided to, or it was redeveloped into residential, for a residential use. For other purposes, you can be somewhere in the middle. So it's very difficult for us to say this is the level and cost of remediation required until council say this is what they want to do. Yeah, any site can be remediated at a cost for human residential needs. Prior to continuing, and fundamental to the project plan, is the need to once again engage a consultant like AEC to prepare a project remediation plan. So that's when you would then update the plan in accordance with council's position, and then as part of the remediation and the project development, you would then have a full remediation plan identified and then managed by external consultants.
Councillor Ford.
Thank you, Your Worship. I speak in favour of the motion, the rescission motion, and agree with the speakers proposing it. I do acknowledge the dedication of the Lions Club and a lot of what the Lions Club does. In fact, almost everything the Lions Club does, quite frankly. Certainly committed people with a great history. I'm sure, however, that they would want the best outcome and the most equitable outcome. And although there may be some delay in following a success of this rescission motion, ultimately it seems to me that their goal is particularly the men's shed. And so we do have an interim arrangement for a men's shed. There's 2 years remaining on that arrangement. And in that time, it seems to me that there's opportunity to look at this again. There is, of course, the remediation issue that has been raised, and that is somewhat of an enigma, but presumably manageable at a cost, but perhaps around $250,000 for the use that's proposed here. But my particular concern is around the configuration that has been put forward. And with all respect to the engineer, Rob, I do have concerns about the parking. It has only, I think, 14 car parks, one disabled car park for people who really, by definition, they're going to be elderly and have various disabilities. So I think that when you consider that the remainder of the area is going to still remain a council depot with machines, potentially trucks, a whole range of other requirements around that, I think we're looking at packing too much onto this site. It may well suit a men's shed in time, but I do think we need to revise the proposed configuration, and to do that I think we do have to go back and engage with the community.
Thank you. Councillor Lemon.
Yes, I have a question. When we endorsed the go-ahead of this project on the 22nd of May, which was 3 weeks ago exactly today, subsequent to that, have you had any contact, or have people got in touch with you, the administrators of the Laurel Avenue Nursery, regarding the resolution we made? I've got a couple of questions actually. Has anyone been in touch with you with concerns about this project?
Through your worship, no.
And further to that, have any residents of Linden Park been in touch with you regarding this project?
No.
When you did a review of the men's shed, did you consult with the men's shed administration and the men's shed participants about the sorts of things that were required and this project?
Through your worship, the men's shed review was undertaken approximately 12 to 18 months ago, and all of the administration and the users were involved at that stage, and they continue to be involved in the development of this project, so yes.
Thank you.
Councillor Davey.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to move an amendment to part 4 of the motion, and that is that part 4...
I don't think you can do that. This is a rescission motion, and I think it has to stand. Well, I guess you can, actually. I guess you can.
If I've got a seconder, if someone will second it.
You can only... I believe, yeah, look, I think that would be too complicated. I think if you have an alternative motion to run, you can speak what you'd wish to run, but we need to deal with this first.
Well, okay, well, I'll speak to this. My plan was to ask for community consultation to be undertaken as soon as practicable, and that a report be presented to council prior to the caretaker period for council elections. I support this project in all its aspects. I think it's very worthwhile. I acknowledge the wonderful donation, the wonderful work of Lions, and the wonderful donation that they have prepared and the investment they're prepared to make. I think it's a very worthwhile project. However, I don't think there has been sufficient community consultation with the local community and with those who are members of the Med Shed. We've heard that was undertaken rightly by the administration 18 months ago. Councillor Bills has outlined the extent of community consultation that's been undergone for many other projects that we've had oversight of, and in fact our strategic plan outcomes require that the community is actively engaged and involved in shaping the city's future. And I think it's key that we have another period of consultation on this project because of all the aspects of it and all the nuances, and I do not think that a short delay will inhibit this at all. I'm very worried about the site contamination. We really don't know the extent of this contamination, both within the actual soil of the site and in the groundwater beneath, and nor do we know the costs to remediate this. So I think the local community must have a say in the advanced stages of this project, as I would also like to see the members of the men's shed. So I support the motion tonight, in the absence of being able to make my amendment.
Thank you. A lot has been made of the issue of inadequate consultation. I don't believe that's the case. Could the administration clarify the process and the involvement that was done on that in engagement?
Through your worship, separate to the individual consultations with respect to the men's shed and the nursery and leading up to a number of resolutions considered by council over the year, the specific consultation that's been referred to was in May 2017, and it was following a council resolution that identified its preferred use for the site to be a shared operational site with nursery, men's shed and community garden. And that was a citywide advertisement in the Eastern Courier Messenger, news article in the Eastern Courier Messengers, letters to 4,200 properties in Eastwood and Glenunga Ward, email to all engaged.burnside users, and May e-news, consultation with participants of the Men's Shed during the Men's Shed review.
Councillor Osterstock.
Thank you. Following on from that extensive summary of the consultation that have led us to this point, which represents 1/4 of the city's residents, basically, I will not be supporting this rescission motion. It is nonsensical in the extreme. It flies in the face of community sentiment, as we've heard from our administration and our deputies tonight. Councillors, it is not our job to project manage projects within this city. Equally, it is not our job to take charge of the remediation of a site within this city. It is not our job to involve ourselves in the nitty-gritty engineering details of projects that come before this chamber for decision. It is simply not our job. It's the administration's job to do that. What we do is consult with the community, like we've heard that we have done, and enact the community's wishes, which is what we did last month when we passed this resolution, the subject of rescission here tonight. Enacting the community's wishes after extensive consultation. That's our job. It's not our job to reinvent the wheel. The issue of Laurel Avenue is not an issue. That is not a fact-in issue in respect to Conningham Street. That is a debate for another day. That is a debate for another day. It is not a matter, it is not appropriate for the waters to be muddied to achieve an outcome, and that's what's occurring here tonight. This project has been 8 years in getting to the point that we were at last month when we endorsed the project. The community were consulted, key user groups, excited by the prospect of this project going ahead, and now we have a rescission motion on the books tonight designed to cut the community's legs off at their knees. And that is the facts. If this rescission motion is passed tonight, in defiance of the community consultation that's taken place, this project is dead in the water. Dead in the water. So recapping, councillors, it is not our job to project manage projects. It's not our job to engineer, take an active involvement in engineering of projects. It's not our job to remediate sites. Our job is to consult with the community, like we've done, extensively, and to deliver a project. And that's what we did last month. And if we vote for this rescission motion tonight, we are doing so in defiance of the community's wishes and killing off this project, despite any other debate that may be said to the contrary. That's what will occur if this rescission motion goes through.
Councillor Davis.
Look, I think Councillor Oxlock is quite right in many of his comments. I think what I find most unfortunate is it seems that some councillors haven't got the consultation that they wanted, and so they wanted to go out again, so to another 4,200 people. Let's go out to another 4,200 people. That's how many people this project has been put in front of, and we got a result from that consultation. And you all know what that result was. Doesn't matter how many consultations you want to do, until you get the answer that you want, you need to listen to what our community has said. You can narrow down that group as much as you'd like, but at the end of the day, it's a good project and our community wants it. 4,200 people. Let's put this idea of consultation to bed because it's a complete furphy. It's not a valid argument for here tonight. It's a complete misnomer. Secondly, with regards to remediation, health concerns, scaremongering, that's all I'm hearing tonight about remediation. It's about someone's going to grow an extra head, people are going to die. But you know what? It's low-level contamination. Everything's contaminated to a certain degree. Granite, for example, is radioactive. It's radioactive. You know, granite bench tops at your home are radioactive. Oh my God, most things around you are radioactive. It's about quantum. It is about quantum. And it's very, very easy to start panicking and to start scaring people. And we're being live streamed tonight, and people watching tonight, and you're saying, there's health concerns about this site. I'm really concerned about the health concerns. It's low-level contamination. It can be remediated. The EPA is following this project. Our council staff know what they're doing far more than we do, in relation to contamination. They can talk with EPA, and they can make sure that it's properly resolved. Do you honestly think that any of our staff are going to go out there with high levels of contamination and let our residents go out and use that site when it's unsafe to do so? They're not. They are not. It's very simple. And to start scaremongering and putting fear into our community about low levels of contamination when they don't necessarily understand the process is reprehensible, in my view. Secondly, it's quite right, we're not here to micromanage projects. If you want to form a subcommittee to go and look at that and follow it as you want, I'm happy to support that. But it's not our job to sit here and delay projects because if we want this report, we want that report, we want this report. We are here to determine broad strategic understanding of projects, things that are going to benefit our community. That's our job. If you want to micromanage it and get into the detail, that's fantastic. I'm happy to support you in a subcommittee so that you can go and follow this project along. But I'm going to get on with my job, which is a broad overview. That's what we're here to do. In terms of Laurel Avenue, I can understand the argument that you think that the two are connected. But my understanding is Laurel Avenue won't be affected by this at all. At the moment, we have a good proposal with a number of things. There's a number of different advantages there. You're going to be dumping a whole bunch of trees and rubbles and fertilizers and compost. That's a big part of the site. It's going to be an operational part of the site. There will be a smaller area which will have capacity to enlarge our nursery capacity. And something that Councillor Bills has mentioned a lot is that we need more trees. And I believe that at one stage we put an extra $90,000 in our budget to increase the amount of trees that we put back. I met with a resident yesterday who was asking for more trees along her street to replace them. So in the foreseeable future, I don't see anything changing with Laurel Avenue. We can always export that to other council areas if we need to, but I say Laurel Avenue stays where it is for the time being, and we develop this additional capacity, which many of these councillors who are saying no, no, no tonight have said in the past that we need to do more work in terms of trees. So I say we can leave that, and whilst I understand that they are combined, there's no reason to link one with the other and go through. I think that this is a good plan, and we've heard from residents tonight, and you've received the consultation. How many times do you want to go out until you get the result that you want? If it comes back in again and says it's a good plan, if we go out to another 4,200 people and they say, it's a good thing, you're doing a good thing, keep going. How many more times do you want to say, no, I'm too scared, I don't want to make a decision, don't want to ever make a decision? And the worst thing about tonight, the thing that I'm most disappointed about, is that we don't actually have proper leadership about what you want to do. It's let's go out to a consultation and push it off to somebody else because I don't have a clear plan in my own head. Now, if you want to say, no, let's go a different path, then lead our community. Lead our community and say, I have a better plan, I have a better vision, and this is what I want to do, and take us with you. And say, why don't we do this instead? And bring a motion here tonight to amend it and say, this is my vision. Come with me on my vision. Instead, it's no, no, no. Another report, another consultation. Let's just, no, it's too hard. It's remediation, double heads, too scared.
Your time's expired, Councillor Davis. Councillor Cornish.
Thank you, Mayor Parkin. Yes, I voted for this motion 3 weeks ago at the last council meeting, so I will not be supporting the rescission of this development. And I do look at, I suppose, the overall strategies that this would support. Our environmental and biodiversity strategy, it supports all of the goals that we have in that strategy, this particular project. Our regional health plan, it supports promoting social interactions, reducing social isolation, promoting a positive well-being. You know, it's reducing physical inactivity in people who are getting aged and supports all of our positive ageing plans as well. I look at all of the strategies that council has, and this project ticks so many of those boxes that I can't understand why we're not doing it. There's supply and demand. We know there's going to be a huge amount of demand in that area. There are 1,000 new dwellings down the road being built as we speak. There's a large amount of demand for, and a lot of them aren't going to have garden space. They're not going to have a garden space. So those plots will be taken up very, very quickly in the community garden. I've heard concerns about car parks, and I have to say that in Little Union Street, there is the Dulwich Community Centre that does not have one off-street car park. And for years, they've managed quite well. And for years, they've also conducted dance classes for children with disabilities as well. So in terms of, I think 15 car parks, along with one for a person with a disability, is a big step forward compared to what we have in, the other side of Green Hill Road. I'm very supportive of this project because it does hit so many of our council strategies. It's gone through great community consultation, and we've got the feedback, and we've said yes. It's taken 8 years for this project to get where it is, and I can completely understand why people are so aggrieved with government and local government at the moment, because things take so long to happen. Let's get on and get the job done. I'm not voting for this rescission motion. The development needs to happen.
Thank you. Councillor Monso, you have a question?
I have a question. When plans were made for the hub and the swimming pool redevelopment and options, they went out for consultation so people had an opportunity to look at them. Has a similar plan been put out for the community to see this plan and comment on this plan?
Through your worship, not since the last council resolution. However, the consistent uses that was adopted by council a year ago is what we consulted with the community on. So yes.
Councillor Pickett.
Could I have a question and speak to it? My question, I just wanted to clarify the extent of the nursery facilities plan for Conningham Street relative to what we currently have in Laurel Avenue. It was a comment of Councillor Davis in terms of being a top-up as opposed to potential replacement of what we do at Laurel. Potential, but what is the situation? I mean, we haven't made a decision on Laurel Avenue, but just what is the extent of nursery ability in this project?
Through your worship, during the nursery service review, there were a number of site limitations and issues that was identified with the existing site that would prove costly to resolve. This service operating from Conningham Street meets all of the objectives of that review and enables us to relocate the nursery service to Conningham Street.
Should we choose to? Right. No, fair enough. Thank you. Yeah, no, that was my understanding too. I just wanted to get that right. If I could talk to it, I don't share Councillor Osterstock's pessimism about looking at a rescission motion in regard to this. I don't think it's the end of the world, and councils do need to do this and make sure we get it right. So I don't have a problem with that. I actually voted against the original that did get up on the basis that I did feel that it was important perhaps to get clarity around what would happen with Laurel Avenue when we did this project, that should really be done at the same time. That was debate was had and lost in my view. On the night, I'm comfortable with the fact that it didn't happen the way I felt it should happen, and I don't see really that this is actually addressing that issue at all. This, for me, is a rescission motion that looks to, if not stop it completely, certainly delay it for a significant time. And I feel that's actually not appropriate. Having put the debate last time and lost it, I feel actually that what this project does do is three things that we should have done some time ago in reality. We have a council-owned property that is an embarrassment to its neighbours, in truth. It's certainly not an asset in Conningham Street as the way it currently presents. We have a men's shed that I think when I came on council was one of the first things that I did actually give Graham that book. I think I gave everybody the book, and at that stage they occupied a couple of portable buildings in a car park, and if it rained they had to reduce what they did outside and all push inside, and that situation hasn't changed. It is something we do need to fix. The federal funding's not really relevant to it, apart from the fact that, you know, we might have to stump up the cash ourselves once that finishes, but I don't see that's relevant. I think it's a problem that needs solving, and so it does that. And third is we've got a nursery that has got significant limitations in both what it can do from a nursery point of view and also the facilities that we provide to the people who work there. They're all three things that council should fix. The motion last time, even though I voted against it, put it up, got it up, and I think that's the way it should stay, so I'll vote against this rescission.
Thank you. Councillor Lemon.
Thank you, Your Worship. I too will vote against this rescission. I agree with everything that Councillor Piggott's just said, and I won't repeat it. I believe that all to be true. When we talk about going to community consultation, since the 22nd of March 2011, we've had 8 council resolutions regarding this site, 8. The most recent gave the go-ahead to this project. On the 27th of April 2017, we were presented, this is over a year ago, we were presented with a draft master plan which we endorsed. On the 11th of July 2017, again, just under a year ago, we were presented with results of a community consultation on the draft master plan. That was just over a year ago, and here, after having actually given this project a tick at our last council meeting in May, and yet we've had nearly 12 months to talk about consultation, it's suddenly come up again. To me, this is nothing more than delaying tactics, and I'm not at all surprised that it's delaying tactics by the very people that didn't support this project at the last council. What we have is no new information. When we gave this a tick on the 22nd of May, that was the best decision. That was the only decision we should have made. Subsequent to the 22nd of May, there has been no new information. None of the community have come forward at any stage, including on our budget consultation, to say this project ought not be going ahead. There's not been a single complaint from anyone about this project going ahead. It's been 3 weeks. No new information. Why are we looking at this rescission motion now? It is not necessary. We made the right decision last time, and to actually rescind this now kills this project as far as I'm concerned, and I hope you do not support this motion.
Thank you. Councillor Wilkins.
Thank you, Your Worship. I, first of all, would like to say thank you to the Lions members for coming along and actually telling us how you have supported the community over the years. Knowing we appreciate that, most definitely, especially the residents in Eastwood. I've been, along with my co-ward councillor, involved in the consultation on all of this and been in consultation with the staff on all of the many meetings we've had on this. I do support the actual development of the site. Initially, former Councillor Jacobson and I thought it would be a very good extension of Pineview Village, but in hindsight, no. I think it is an excellent site for an extension of the men's shed. I have reservations about, and I have expressed my reservations to staff about the parking, and that was increased. I have reservations about the concentration of everything on the site. I think in years to come, there will be so many retired people, not only just in Victoria Grove or Pineview or Amber Woods or any of those small boxes in Glenside, who will need a space to actually recreate, much bigger than the sheds behind St Matthew's. And I think Conningham Street is an ideal site. I have concerns about the cost of remediation. Knowing back in early, whatever it was, late 90s, early 2000s, the cost of remediation on the site for the former Adelaide Waste Depot, Adelaide City Council Waste Depot in Gillies or Gilbert Street, the brickwork site, that was huge. So this could also be a huge cost when we remediate the site, because I think the site deserves remediation in the strongest possible manner to get rid of any contaminants that may be there. I have concerns that only 72 responses were received from 4,200 letters that went out in Eastwood and Glenunga. Not many people have seen this design. That does concern me. I can't support the rescission because I do want the project to go ahead. I think my concern reading the initial report for 22nd of May was the Laurel Avenue nursery site, points 47 to 53, where it is possible sale of the site. I don't want to see Laurel Avenue site actually sold. We've morphed through opportunities for residential units on the site, but I think in hindsight, once again, in years to come, that site will be a valuable space for a nursery site as well as community garden in that suburban location. It could also be, as somebody else suggested, a site for trees to be held over until they've reached mature height for street tree planting. So I would never support the sale of Laurel Avenue. I also think that having been involved in Glenunga Hub site and the project when it was delivered, all through to delivery, it has become so popular, there is always a need for more space. I think we can go forward in this development of this site as the men's shed, and perhaps as we go forward, perhaps we will drop off the community garden space, because Pineview doesn't need any community garden space. People have their own backyard. They have space around the village to do their own vegetable garden. Amber Woods and Victoria Grove also, as the two persons spoke, do have their own garden. They can do their own gardening. Some people don't want to. But I prefer to go forward and re-evaluate as we go.
Thank you, Councillor Wilkins. Your time has expired. That concludes the speakers. I ask Councillor Bills, as the mover, to sum up if he chooses.
Yep, no problem, we'll do that. I'll make some comments about some of the comments that have been made. Somebody asked about consultation, that said it was done with the men's shed participants about 18 months ago. Well, I've been there that long, and nobody spoke to us. And if you look at the report that was done for the 22nd of May, it states under Part 20, in 2015, a review was conducted which involved the men's shed participants, so that's inaccurate. The consultation that you keep hammering involved less than 2% of those people sent out who bothered to respond. Maybe if they look at what they did in 2010 when they went out to consultation about doing the work at the garden, at the nursery and having the community garden there, the residents probably look at it and go, why the hell should I bother responding to a survey with Burnside Council when they don't do what they say they're going to do? You reckon they might be a little bit cheesed off they're getting lied to? I have a clear vision. It was on the next motion, but you probably won't let me allow that. 6 years and nothing's happened, and now suddenly it comes to a head just before we go to an election to get things done. lots of new information. It's there. I've come up with 4 instances and motions that were done in 2010 and 2011 when we were there, which have not been complied with, and nobody knows about it. You say there's no complaints from the residents. Nobody knows about this project, that's why. Certainly, absolutely nothing to do with the nursery. Rubbish, it's got everything to do with the nursery. Key user groups involved? No, we weren't. Now, we had a project in 2010 and council failed to deliver it. It was funded. Talk about community anger. I wonder why. Okay, I'm going to sum up. In essence, I have no objection to the furthering of information necessary to make a detailed case for change if needed, but this must include residents who have responded previously, the signatories of the petition, local residents and users of the shed and the nursery. Not much building something if it becomes congested, incorporates other issues not conducive to elderly men's well-being and only suits a council directive. They will not return if you change the format of their interaction and enjoyment. It's not up to us to dictate it's their province, and enough has been said about the necessities. You've even got this in some reports that have come to council. These things aren't known, and a survey a year out of date is just too far gone. The users of the shed must be consulted. They have been now post-decision. We don't know the results of that. That's why I'm trying to remove the rescission motion, so we get an opportunity to find out what they think, because at no stage have they ever been consulted, irrespective of the comments that I've heard around here, which is just from people who don't know what they're talking about. We don't know the costs. The costs of remediation is a figure 4 years old, as I recall. The current location is not suitable for these entities. The nearest you can get for disabled parking is about over the other side where the disabled is. They've then got to walk through an area to get to the men's shed. Currently, they walk about 10 feet. They haven't got that benefit anymore. The current site is clean. It's unpolluted. The parking is not a problem. But it will be a problem at the new place. The current site of the men's shed is bounded by a church, school and rented properties. The new one is on a busy roads, lots on the site, parking issues, close to residential properties. Men's shed can be noisy. We've got to have vacuum cleaners running all the time. You've got residences right alongside you. I'm really, really, really disappointed in this. We have had the opportunity. We went out to consultation in the previous council, which we were not advised of. The public responded to it. We said we were going to do something. We had money in the budget to do it. We didn't do a damn thing. For 6 years, we've sat on our hands. Now we come up with something just prior to an election and go, hey, we've solved the world's problems. Mind you, we haven't spoken to any of the people who are going to be involved, but we've solved their problems. I may very well run to an election stating I respect the men's shed, and I'll do everything to save our unique nursery. Unfortunately, I don't think enough of you do.
Thank you, Councillor Bills. Debate's over. I put the motion that we rescind our decision of 3 weeks ago. All those in favour? Those against?
I'll abstain, thank you.
The motion is lost. I haven't called for a division yet.
Councillor Bills did.
All those in favour of the rescission, please stand. Those in favour are Councillors Monceau, Bills, Davey, Lord and Ford. Those against are Councillors Osterstock, Lemon, Wilkins, Davis, Piggott and Cornish. The motion is lost. We move back to our agenda. And are there any questions without notice? There are no proposed motions without notice, so we move on to reports of officers, of which we have 9. I will call them, remembering that we are being live streamed, so I'll do my best to make it clear what we are doing here. The first, if any councillor wishes to pull one of these for debate, please signify. The first is the CEO's report. Councillor Davey. The second is the appointment of an independent chair for Era Water. No, then can I have a motion in accordance with the officer's recommendation, please? Moved Councillor Davis, seconded Councillor Osterstock. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. The third is a matter for which a number of us will have a conflict, so I'm going to deal with that at the end of the agenda. So we move to 14.4, the bylaws review. Anyone wish to pull that? Then you wish to pull that, Councillor David? The request for a discharge on Beulah Road, Kensington Park. Can I have a motion to call? You wish to pull that?
No. Move it.
You're moving it, thank you. A seconded. Thank you, Councillor Davis. You're moving the officer's recommendation. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. The draft City of Burnside Dog and Cat Management Plan. You're moving the officer's recommendation, seconded by Councillor Lemon. All those in favour? You wish to pull it. Thank you. Uh, 14.7, the Urban Tree Management Policy. You moving it?
Moving the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. A seconder, please. Move Councillor Osterstock, seconded Councillor Davis. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. The Water Course Management Policy, 14.8. You wish to pull that, Councillor Monceau? Yeah. Thank you. The Community Grants Program. Well, it hasn't been pulled, so I suggest you leave the chamber while we debate it.
I've got to actually declare my material.
You declare your
conflict
conflict?
of interest. I'm the secretary and treasurer of one of the applicants involved with this agenda item, and will leave the chamber.
Thank you. With Councillor Cornish having declared his interest, can I have a move the officer's recommendation? Move Councillor Davey, seconded Councillor Monceau. All those in favour? Against?
Can I just point out, Mr. Presiding Member, that 3.4, I was actually apology for that meeting because I was interstate.
Thank you. You didn't participate in the...
No.
In the...
I was not on the phone,
yes,
and
you were.
I discussed it after the results.
That concludes the matters on reports of officers, other than 14.3, which I intend to deal with just before we move into confidence.
I don't think we actually moved 14.9 and it wasn't moved in second.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Right.
Thank you. So, Councillor Davey, 14.1, the CEO report, page 15, your motion.
Thank you, Worship. I move in accordance with the officer's recommendation, CEO's recommendation, and I just had a couple of queries. In relation to the culture survey, is it possible for us to receive a report on that, please? Because we haven't had any feedback on it or any detail.
Through the Mayor, we can certainly distribute that through information document.
Thank you, I'd be very happy with that. And the other query is in relation to positions vacant and available. We've had a position of a governance officer on to be recruited for quite a while, and it's no longer on. Have we recruited someone?
Through the Mayor, yes, we've
heard.
just appointed a person, and she started today.
Can we have that information included in the report, please, when we appoint someone?
That's a bit hard, seeing it only happened today, but you would certainly get it in your next report.
Okay, so that is routinely done, is it, that we... Okay, it's just nothing was mentioned last meeting either, and so I wasn't clear. So all those other positions are currently have been advertised and are being recruited? Thank you very much.
You've moved that motion, which is the officer's recommendation. I seek a seconder. Councillor Monceau.
And I don't wish to speak to it, but just to ask a question.
Yes.
And that is, there's reference to a climate survey and an organisational cultural survey. Are they the same things, or are they two different things, please? Through you, the Mayor.
Sorry, I was only half listening. You better say it. Perhaps I'll defer to you.
Through the Mayor, they're quite similar. The culture survey actually looks at the underlying causes that creates the climate side. So there's two parts, but I'll include that in the information document.
Okay, so we'll get it as a information document alongside the climate survey.
That's correct. You'll get the full works.
Okay, so there are two. The answer then to my question was that they are two separate surveys that were conducted.
Yeah,
but related to each other, obviously.
that's correct. There's two sets of surveys that all the staff had to complete that are tied together. One's the underlying principles, the other's the results.
Okay, thank you.
Moved and seconded. No further debate. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. Councillor Davey.
Your Worship, could I just make, I had my key on. Was
Oh,
it
I'm
not
sorry.
showing?
I'm sorry, that is my error. I did not
Thank
see
you.
that. I'm happy for you to speak on the matter.
Thank you. Can I just speak to the CEO's report? Was what I wanted to ask a question.
That's where we are.
Thank you. The parking policy revision that is due to come back with a review on the 26th of June 2018, if we're coming back with a review on something that is being passed disadvantaging a whole lot of people in residential areas, why is it that the form on the website is actually mirroring something that is under review? People are being asked to fill out their request for a parking permit on the website, and we haven't decided on it yet. It's due back to us on the 26th of June.
Through the Mayor, the Council has actually adopted the revised parking policy at that meeting on the 22nd of May. The review wasn't a review of the parking policy in totality. It was taking on board the issues that were raised by deputations and members of council that we would include in a future revision of the parking policy. But it wasn't a wholesale review of the policy that was presented on the 22nd of May. Through the Mayor, we will present a report at the next council meeting which will incorporate the matters that were raised by deputations and by members of council, and if council wishes to include those in the revised parking policy, they can do so, and they will be adopted for implementation from the 1st of July.
And do residents know this? No.
Okay. Matter of the CEO's report, I will call again for those in favour. Those against, motion's carried unanimously. Now, Councillor Davey, you have pulled the matter of the bylaws on page 53.
Thank you, Your Worship. I want to move in accordance with the recommendation and add a point 7 to become, so everything else intact, and it's number 7, that these bylaws be actively promoted on the website and in council publications. So thank you. It's just to reinforce that we actually need to promote them. Just let people know that they have been updated. A lot of work's been done, and I congratulate Magnus and Martin and their teams in reviewing these and updating them, and all the work that's gone involved in that. We've got some new changes with our animal management and waste management. They're two crucial ones in terms of the impact, I think, on the community. And it's just to simply ask that they be promoted actively so that our community understand them and are clear with them. Thank you.
Motion's been moved. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Bills, do you wish to speak to it, Councillor Bills? Anyone wish to speak to this matter? Councillor Cornish?
Just a question in regards to item 7. It says website and in council publications. Is that all council publications? What does that include?
My
would that be a
interpretation of
development
that
application?
my interpretation of that was that's at council's discretion, and that's the best way to leave it.
Could I offer an amendment to say appropriate council publications?
Well, that really doesn't clarify it any better, other than to...
Relevant council publications?
Even that is subjective. I mean, you wouldn't want to put it out with your...
They have to be gazetted.
Yeah. Look, if you start qualifying it, we're going to get a longer and longer sentence and not get any further. Right now, it's at the discretion of council, and my recommendation is we leave it. So, moved, seconded. Any further debate? I will put the motion. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. Now, Councillor Davey again, 14.6, the Dog and Cat Draft Management Plan, page 179.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, again, I'd like to move in accordance with the officer's recommendation that the report be received and that Council adopt the draft City of Burnside Dog and Cat Management Plan 2018 to 2023 for the purposes of public consultation, and that a copy be forwarded to the Dog and Cat Management Board for comment. Again, congratulations to the staff and thank you for all the work that's gone into publishing this document. My only comments are that it just needs some proofreading and editing before it's finalised, particularly on pages 191. There's some typos in the whole background page. On page 199, there's some just some editorials that are needed. 201. Yes, again, it's just formatting. And yes, I think that's really all that needs to be said. So just a good proofread and edit, and we'll see what comes back in the community consultation, and we look forward to, I think, receiving a report in August, don't we? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Davey, you've moved the officer's recommendation. Councillor Davis, are you seconding the motion?
I'd like to quickly speak. I think in terms of in future, it would be better if we had those type of, I didn't pick up any of the mistakes that you pointed out, but I think for everyone's time, especially the staff members who are staying back late, it might be more expedient to send that through via an email to the staff rather than sit here and go through spelling errors on reports in future.
Well, why can't we ask questions? It's
Through the Mayor, I would like to apologise. I can assure you that the version that was sent through it was checked and checked. We think what's happened is there's a version control in the software that may have thrown up some when the button was pressed. So it's our fault. We'll look at that. But yeah, we didn't submit them with those errors in them. But that's our issue, and we'll sort that out. Thanks.
Motion's been moved. Councillor Wilkins.
I have a question, thank you, Your Worship. Point 11, you raise the costs of, fencing of Tusmore Wading Pool, council playgrounds, then again on other places, but 203, begin a program of fencing Tusmore Wading Pool. When did we decide to do that, is my question. As a granny who's taken all of my grandchildren to Tusmore Wading Pool, when did we decide to fence it? It has never been fenced.
Through the Chair, the Council hasn't decided to fence it. It's certainly put forward as an idea for community debate and consultation, but there's been no decision to fence it. And if it ultimately was to be fenced, it would be subject to future budgetary considerations and council considerations.
Any further debate on this matter? Then the debate's closed. Councillor Davey, may I put the motion?
No, I'll just sum up.
Thank you.
Just on the point that Councillor Wilkins made, I agree, and I just wonder if, because as you say, you put it up for discussion, if we could insert instead investigate fencing of Tusmore Wading Pool and children's playgrounds, that be reasonable that we put that in? Thank you. And then the public can have their say on that. Thank you.
Thank you. I put the motion. All those in favour? Against? That's unanimous. Councillor Monso, you have pulled 14.8, the Watercourse Management Policy Review, page 229.
Sorry, I didn't have a chance or time to get an email through with a couple of errors, so I'll pass those over to Mr. Camp. But I did want to make a point.
So are you moving your motion?
Sorry, I'm moving. First of all, I move in accordance with the motion, with the officer's recommendation. There are some minor changes that I will hand over, but I also wish to make a point that watercourse management does impact on the health and well-being of people in relation to, you know, infestation, etc., and that policy hasn't been included in the policy. So if that could also be added, and I wanted to make it, you know, I didn't want to just hand that as an email. So I'm happy for that to go ahead now, and I'll give you the corrections that I believe need to be made.
I presume, Councillor Monso, that your amendments are in the nature of slip rule,
Correct.
and don't affect what we are debating.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Seek a seconder for the motion. Councillor Davey. Yes, you do.
Thank you. I'm happy to second this.
Ask you to turn off.
Now I'm okay to go. Sorry about that. Yes, I'm happy to second this motion. The one thing again that I would like to see too is that we promote this policy on our website and in our publications, because I think some of the people who reside on watercourses don't fully understand their responsibilities, and that this would be a way to help them do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Davis.
Yeah, I think I'd like to congratulate, I suppose, the staff. I actually had a resident recently who said they actually got an unsolicited letter telling them about their watercourse and that they were safe from flooding. So they'd gone through and assessed their particular circumstances and said, you're all good to go. And so they were very impressed at the proactive nature of our policy.
Thank you, Mayor Parkin. Just a question through the administration regarding, and it's sort of regarding watercourses. First and Second Creek, that catchment zone, the stormwater management plan for that and remediation. If you remember, there was a flood a while ago and a number of houses in Toorak Gardens were almost a metre under. And I do remember speaking to the Stormwater Management Committee at the time, the State Government Committee, and asked them when specifically they'd start work on that. I'd wondered if you guys have heard any additional information. They said they were going to reprioritise it given the recent flooding.
Through your worship, I'd like to take that one on notice if I may. I don't have that information at hand, but I'll certainly check it out and I'll provide the information back to all elected members through an information document.
So, Davey, you have a question?
I certainly do. Just in relation to contamination of the creek, in Stonyfurl with silt, there was some work being done on prevention of that, and I just wonder where we're at in terms of the quarry. And we were stopping the silt from going into the watercourse.
Through your worship, if I could remember correctly, this question actually came up at the last council meeting. We were advised by Boral at the time that their new system isn't fully operational yet. They will advise us when it will be, and then all elected members will have an opportunity to have a site visit, and they will give you the opportunity to see that for yourselves. Further to that, we will then continue to monitor success or otherwise of that system that's been put in place.
Councillor Wilkins.
Through you, Your Worship, can I just ask of the General Manager a question? I'm pleased to note that water-sensitive urban design is a paragraph in the policy. And I also want to know, utilising local stormwater, what is planned this coming 12 months for actually incorporating, shall we say, collection points along our streets for water-sensitive urban design? What actions are going to come out of 7.11.1? Any planned?
Through your worship, I believe there was a recent information document or email to all members that captured a lot of that information. I don't have that information at hand, but once again,
Tell me what date it is.
I'll provide that information again. Absolutely. Absolutely, it was definitely included in an information document recently in the last few months, so I will reissue that.
Motion's been moved and seconded. Any further debate? There being none, the mover was Councillor Monceau. Do you wish to speak? I will put the motion. All those in favour? Against? That's unanimous. And that, apart from 14.3, completes the section of officers' reports. We move on to section... What have I got? I'm going to do it at the end. I'm going to get to there and then I'll do it. I said other than that. So we'll go to 15.1, East Waste Management Authority, and there is nothing on that. There is East Health Authority Board of Management minutes of the 2nd of May on page 269 with the recommendation that they be received. Can I have a recommendation to that effect? Move Councillor Osterstock, seconded Councillor Pickett. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. There is nothing on Highbury. On East Era Water, there are two recommendations. The first is that the agenda of minutes of their meeting at the 1st of June be received. Move Councillor Lemon, seconded Councillor Osterstock. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. And the second is that the meeting report from our independent member Jeff Vogt for the meeting held 1st of June be received. Move Councillor Lemon, seconded Councillor Osterstock again. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. There is nothing on Eastern Regional Alliance. There is no council correspondence. Any other business? There being none, then I will revert back to, because from this point we go into confidence, so I'll revert back to 14.3, which is a matter on which I have an interest, and I will leave the chamber.
It's not in confidence.
But I still have a conflict.
You have conflict, but it's
not in confidence, no. Can I borrow your card? Once this item is over, I would suggest that that we call for a break and then we'll come back and go into conference. That's my recommendation. You don't have to do it. I won't be here.
Members, the Mayor has declared a conflict of interest, so we need an acting chairperson for this particular item. Do I have any nominations for acting chair for item 14.3? Councillor Cornish, do you accept?
I will if I have to, yes.
Are there any other nominations? No, there are no other nominations. Councillor Cornish, you didn't step back fast enough. Can I have a motion, please, that Councillor Cornish be acting chair for item 14.3? Councillor Pickett moved. Councillor Lemon seconded. Any debate? I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Against? That's carried unanimously. Welcome to the big chair again, Councillor Cornish. Prior to you actually dealing with this matter, I have a material conflict of interest and I'll be vacating my chair.
Councillor Osterstock.
Thank you, Mr Acting Presiding Member. In accordance with Section 75A1B of the Act, I declare that I may have a perceived conflict of interest. In accordance with 75A2, the nature of that interest is that I have personal matters involving Councillor Bagster on foot. The way, in accordance with Section 75 bracket 4 of the Act, 75A bracket 4 of the Act, the way I intend to deal with that perceived conflict of interest is to remain in the chamber and vote on this motion that is tabled, and I have legal advice to support that position.
Thank you, Councillor Osterstock, and that has been minuted. Brilliant. Councillor Davis.
I too have the same, I'm in the same situation. I've received legal advice that I don't have a material conflict of interest, and so I will...
Excuse me, could the gallery please be quiet? Thank you.
So I'll stay in the chamber and vote.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Davis. Councillor Ford.
Thank you, Mr Acting Chairman. I've received indirect information that perhaps it could be construed that I have a conflict of interest in this matter. I've examined the regulations and section about this, and I believe that is not the case. However, I'll proceed with caution and remain in the chamber but not vote.
Thank you, Councillor Ford. So can I just clarify for the minutes that you're declaring a perceived conflict of interest, but you'll stay in the chamber? Thank you for the minutes. Thank you.
Could I clarify, is that a valid option to stay in and not vote? Because as I understand, Councillor Ford was... Is that... I might have misunderstood, but you were staying in the chamber and not voting. But is that a valid... That's not something I've heard previously in these situations. You're either in or you're out.
Well, I feel quite clear that I'm not compromised, and I do intend to stay in the chamber, and therefore I will proceed to vote if that is an action I can't.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Does that clarify that matter for you, Councillor Piggott? I do agree. I think there would be an issue with our meeting procedures that if you're in the seat, you have to vote. So, Councillor Davis.
Yeah, my understanding is that a council member can't choose, if they don't have a material conflict of interest or a perceived conflict of interest and they're declaring that interest, I don't think they have the option to just decide not to vote, because it, for whatever reason, it might have bad consequences for your electorate.
Correct, so, which we have clarified. Councillor Ford is going to vote. Okay. So, yeah. Thank you. Chamber, do I have someone who wishes to move a motion? Councillor Lemon, thank you.
I move the officer's recommendation, and in moving it, I'd make the point that this is for council to note. There are no decisions to be made on this. This is merely for council to note. So I move the officer's recommendation and receive the report. Part 2, we note. Part 3, we note. Part 4, we note. And Part 5, we note. So we have no business with this except to move the officer's recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Lemon. Do I have a seconder for this motion? Councillor Piggott.
Yes, I'm happy to second this motion. Because Councillor Lemon is correct. This motion really, or this report really, is to update us on what has happened since last time we visited this issue. And you might remember last time we visited this issue, we extended the time for Councillor Baxter to put in an appropriate apology. And because in the absence of an appropriate apology, Council is compelled by law to send this to the District Court. Last time we debated this, we provided that to, we provided the extra time, and while we did receive, Council did receive correspondence, council did not receive an unqualified apology. So what this report does is have us note the fact that that is the case, and council has proceeded as it has to. So I'm happy to second the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Piggott. Anyone else wish to debate this? Councillor Ford.
Thank you, Mr Acting Chairman. I will vote against noting
Excuse me, Councillor Davis, can we clarify exactly what you are doing right now?
So in terms of the legal advice that I've received, my understanding is that if it's noting, I'm all good. If you intend to debate it, then I can have influence on that. There's no subtlety. Sorry,
Yes, gallery, if you could please be quiet. Councillor Davis has since moved that. I apologise. Councillor Ford, if you could resume, you'll have your 5 minutes.
I won't need 5 minutes, Your Acting Chair. No, I do vote not to receive this report on the basis that it's compiled erroneously because of inappropriate instruction, and I believe that I'm constrained from detailing the background to my position on this because of confidentiality motions that have been passed previously, but nevertheless, that's my position.
Thank you, Councillor Ford. Anyone else wish to debate this topic? Councillor Monceau.
I just wish to similarly state that I support and believe accordingly with Councillor Ford. I will not support this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Monceau. Anyone else wish to debate this topic? Councillor Lord.
Yes, I don't wish to debate it, but I believe that Councillors Monceau and Ford have hit the nail on the head, and I certainly won't support it.
Thank you, Councillor Lord. Does anyone else? No? Councillor Lemon, you can sum up.
I'll sum up. What we're looking at here is something that is very, very clear, clean and isolated. There was a breach. The breach was found by somebody external to this organisation. There was a pattern of behaviour that had to take place that hasn't taken place, and this is the consequence of it, which we are actually noting. There is nothing... Presiding member.
Sorry, gallery.
There is nothing...
Gallery, could you please be quiet?
There is nothing other than that here. This is us fulfilling our obligations to the Ombudsman. That is it. And we're noting it. Please support it. Please support Council noting this.
Okay, thank you. I will now put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? The motion is won. Division has been called by Councillor Monceau. Those in favour, please stand. So those in favour are Councillor Osterstock, Councillor Lemon, Councillor Wilkins, Councillor Piggott and Councillor Davey. Those against are Councillor Monceau, Councillor Bills, Councillor Lord and Councillor Ford. The motion is carried. Thank you. I will call for a motion for a 10-minute break. Councillor Piggott, seconded by Councillor Lemon. All those in favour? Those against? The motion is carried.
Meeting recommits at 6 minutes to 9. Move Councillor Osterstock, seconded Councillor Cornish. All those in favour? All those in favour, we recommence. Against? The motion is carried. I ask you to move to your confidential items on the agenda, and the first matter, 18.1, is the CEO Officer Remuneration Report, and pursuant to section...
Through you, Mayor, I'd like to declare a conflict of interest and I won't be present for this item.
Thank you. Pursuant to section 92 of the Local Government Act, the Council orders that all members of the public be excluded, with the exception of the elected members of the City of Burnside. The CEO, but he's removed himself anyway due to an interest. The General Manager Corporate and Development, the General Manager Urban and Community, the Principal Executive Officer and Group Manager People and Innovation, on the basis that we'll receive and consider item 18.1, CEO Remuneration Review 2017. The Council is satisfied, pursuant to section 93A of the Act, that the information to be received, discussed or considered in relation to this agenda item is information that would involve the unreasonable disclosure of information concerning the personal affairs of any person. The information concerns the remuneration review of the CEO and personal attributes, and the release of such information is unreasonable. Further, the principle that the meeting should be conducted in a place open to the public has been outweighed in the circumstances because of the public interest in maintaining the confidentiality of the personal affairs of these persons. I seek a motion to that effect, please. Move Councillor Piggott, seconded Councillor Davey. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. So we are